Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the managing director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. As the title of this video suggests, we're discussing tourist numbers, and a recent insight popped out to me when reading an article on Thai visas just generally. And some have asked me, do you just sit around reading articles on Thai immigration? And yeah, that's kind of part of my job. I also sit around reading stuff about US immigration, Thai corporate law that may or may not be in the works or being proposed, matters pertaining to foreigners here in Thailand sort of generally, things pertaining to possible treaty benefits, etc. I mean, that's kind of what we do. But that being said, this article is from ThaiVisa.com. It's titled, Thailand to Remain Closed to Mass Tourism Until March, Travel Bubble Discussions Ongoing. And I thought the following excerpt was really interesting. The prospect of Thailand's borders remaining closed to most foreigners until March will come as a further blow to Thailand's beleaguered tourism industry, which this week was told not to expect the pre-coronavirus pandemic level of 40 million visitors to return to Thailand until 2024. That is a big statement. So we're talking the numbers we were looking at in 2019 going into 2020. And possibly not seeing that until 2024. Now, that stated 2019, 2018, 40 million tourists, those were banner numbers. You know, Thailand, that was sort of the zenith of Thai tourism in terms of numbers. So understand, just because we get to half of that perhaps in 2021, which I think might be being optimistic, but I think it's possible, or even 2022 hitting a little over half of that, even if you get to half of that, it's substantially better than where we're at right now, which is pretty near zero. And also understand that, you know, the Thai economy, the tourism it's bustling at 40 million, big time, but it would be perfect. I wouldn't say perfectly fine, but I think things are sustainable at half of that number, to use that term. And I think people kind of throw that term around, sustainable, a little too often these days. But that stated, I think definitely many of the businesses that thrive off of 40 million tourists could survive much better than they are now, mind you, under a sort of 20 million person tourism regime. So again, just because it doesn't hit the same numbers that it was hitting prior to this whole thing coming on, it doesn't mean that things are just bereft of hope forever. So again, you know, hope for the best, plan for the worst. We'd certainly love to see 40 million tourists again tomorrow, or those daily numbers coming back. But at least for the time being, that doesn't seem like it's going to be particularly likely. But I would say even getting to half of that number would be far better than the situation we're in currently.